Now, what could possibly be better than Linux on an iPod? Linux on an iPod that plays Doom, of course, and here to show us just that is our very own Paul Tobias. Thanks for coming on and getting in front of the camera. And so you're here to talk about putting Linux on the iPod. Where did you hear about this, man?
I first read it in Make magazine a while ago, but I checked it out back then and didn't really support my generation iPod, and there weren't as many applications that you can use it for, but it was kind of interesting. But recently I checked it out and they've done a lot more development. It goes all the way up to the 5th generation iPods with video.
Sweet. So aside from Doom, what else can you do with iPod Linux?
There's other emulators for like the NES, the Game Boy, there's MAME, and there's plenty of writing programs, other music
writing
players.
Programs. How do you write on an iPod?
There's lots of different text input methods, but the main one is you scroll through the letters and numbers and you press select and you write one letter at a time with just the one button.
Gotcha. So what about everybody at home that has an iPod that's wondering what the compatibility is, by generation of iPod?
Well, the wiki on iPodlinux.org definitely helps explain it. There's a whole graph listing the generations and what parts of the iPod it supports.
Okay, but we're not going to see it on a shuffle anytime soon?
Nah, definitely not.
Okay, now if we put Linux on our iPod, are we going to lose any of the original iPod functionality?
Absolutely no, because what you're doing is dual booting, and it'll let you either boot the Apple firmware or the Linux firmware.
So it's just like Grub if you were to put, Linux on a Windows machine, or I guess on this case on a Mac. Spiffy. Now, how do you get to that bootloader though? If you're in the Apple OS, or if you want to switch between them?
Well, when you want to switch, you have to press the center button and the menu button at the same time. That allows your iPod to reboot, and it will go into the bootloader program.
Can you walk us through the steps of getting Linux actually on your iPod?
All right. First thing to do is you have to put your iPod into disk mode. You do that through the iTunes. It's in the preferences under the iPod tab. After that, you download the installer. You unpack it and start running it. It will find your iPod and it will give you a list of all the modules and programs you can install on it.
So it's kind of like got its own built-in package management system.
Yes, it's very Linux-like.
Okay, so is there any big difference between installing it on a Windows iPod and a Mac iPod?
Yes, because Windows has to format it to the FAT32 file structure. It doesn't really see the Linux partition too well, so it's kind of quirky. But on the Mac, it's a lot easier because it's used to seeing the different things like the HFS plus.
Okay, so on the Windows side, it actually puts a Linux partition on there,
yes.
And Windows obviously can't see that. Just if you were to dual boot like Gen 2 and Windows, you wouldn't be able to see your Gen 2 file system unless you had some additional software. Is there any recommendations you have?
When we were researching this problem, we came across LTools, which was a neat little application that kind of set it up to view as in like the Windows File Explorer, and you can see the whole, both the FAT32 file structure and the Linux file structure.
Sweet. So what's the trick to getting Doom on your iPod?
The thing is, since the iPod isn't capable of running both the Linux OS and Doom at the same time, you have to launch it from like the BIOS. Mm-hmm. And the way you do that is you get a launcher. We use C Launcher. It took a little rewriting some of the
so you edit your RC files,
your
so that
RC
when
files.
It starts up Linux, rather than going right into your GUI, you get the option to go into different things.
Yes, definitely.
So that kind of sounds very similar to back in the day, if you remember trying to play something like Duke Nukem 3D, and you would just get a special floppy that you'd boot off that and get your optimal system performance because it wouldn't load, all that other fun DOS stuff. Or kind of akin to maybe exiting Windows 3.1 or
going
95
back to DOS and
playing
all that.
Doom and Quake 2 there.
Yeah.
Dude, that's awesome. Now, would you say it's actually playable, though?
Oh, yeah. You can have lots of fun just running around, blowing little bad guys away and opening up all the little secret doors.
What are the controls like?
The controls are a little quirky. You don't get the strafe. You don't get to walk backwards. But everything else is there. You can't change your gun unless you run out of ammo.
That can be kind of a pain.
But
we've successfully beaten it on the iPod, the 5th gen, and I gotta say, man, this is awesome. Now, if anybody's interested in trying this at home, where would you say that they head to?
The best resource is the iPod Linux wiki. Everything's there. All the things you need to download. Even the iPod firmware updater is there. You go there and it'll explain it. It's a little daunting at first, but once you get used to the idea of way it works on the iPod, you can also figure out how it works on the wiki.
Sweet. Well, thanks for coming on and showing us the Linux way for our iPods. Now we're going to head over to Allie and see what's coming on next in the show.